Well, hey fam, welcome back to my couch, and today is Money Monday, so let's get into it. We're talking about saving. The most common budgeting advice I see in relation to saving are two things. The 50-30-20 rule, where 50% of your income is for your needs, 30% is for your wants, and 20% is your savings. And the second is having $1,000 of an emergency fund, which is often perpetuated by Dave Ramsey as one of his baby steps. Now, while these are just two takes on saving and high-level budgeting, like all financial guidelines, they're just that, they're guidelines, even if they claim to be advice. It's not a one-size-fits-all. The 50-30-20 rule leaves a lot of room for wants. I'll be honest, if you have a savings goal, debt you want to pay off ASAP, no emergency fund, or a combination of the three of those things, 30% is too much fun money. Unless you have a serious hobby or passion that this money is going to, bonus points if that hobby or passion makes you some extra money. You should be paying down debt, investing, or saving more of that money. And y'all, we'll get into why that $1,000 is not enough momentarily. First, if you watched the first video in this series, you would have taken a look at your personal financial statement and have an idea of where your money goes. Are you happy with where it's going and how it's being used? Did you notice any patterns? I'm gonna be 100% honest with you right now. If you're unhappy with your own financial position and have genuinely looked over your finances those 2 weeks, you don't need a fancy course or to spend money on a financial advisor or on wealth building courses. You need to acknowledge and address the problems or unfavorable patterns that you're seeing in your spending. And you don't need to spend more money to do that. I can almost guarantee you that they're linked to behaviors or routines, some that you might not have even known that you had. I'm a huge advocate for taking as much control over your own money and finances first. Simply pay attention to what you're doing, what you're spending on. Otherwise, you'll spend money on products, services, courses, and they won't help you because you never tried to understand your personal money habits in the first place. This isn't to say that those courses and products and services won't be helpful to you. Quite the contrary. Hello, accountant. But I do think that there's some tough but free introspective work that you can do first so that you can maximize and optimize the money that you're putting into and investing in those courses and trainings and learning programs. Now, why did I say all that? Well, let's be honest. You'll have to spend less in order to save more. Groundbreaking, I know. Unless you plan on generating more streams of income, but let's be real, even if you did, you could still probably save more money. I'm just here to be honest with you. So back to those questions. If you're unhappy with or just want to change your financial position, what can you cut out? If it's eating out, can you learn how to make your favorite dish from that restaurant or that fast food place or wherever at home? The incremental cost of eating out and having that dish at home can go directly to your savings. And what I mean by the incremental cost is the price that you pay when you buy that food already made and the price of your groceries, because I guarantee you there's a gross discrepancy in those prices. Instead of going to the movies, see if the title is streaming on a platform. Probably one of the best things 2020 has given us, if we can even count best things that it's given us. Often, if it is on a streaming site, at most, if there's a price, it's around the same price as an adult ticket for a non-matinee show. You're already saving money. Invite some friends over, buy the microwavable popcorn, get some bulk snacks. Or get the friends to bring the snacks and the drinks. You're all now having a movie-going experience on the price of one ticket if just one of you were to go. If you like buying makeup, start comparing what you want to what you have. This way you won't have unused dupes. I know for a fact you'll see similarities because I used to be a makeup junkie myself. And I had so many similar products that I know I could never get through alone. Finally, drink at home. Just gonna say it. Based on the stats, most of you watching are in my age group, which is the 25 to 34 group, in which case you can legally drink. If you're a drinker or a partier, commit to pre-gaming at home and not driving, obviously. Don't drink and drive. Drinks can be $10 and up dollars, especially on weekends and non-happy hours. Forget about it if it's top shelf. You could easily buy a bottle of the good stuff, make your own for a fraction of the cost, and then go out and enjoy the night and drink some water. Trust me, the water will help if you think you're gonna have a hangover the next day. These are just a few things you can do if you miss certain experiences or you feel like you're gonna miss out by giving up one or two things or going to the movies once a month. But just thinking and really getting creative and using that ingenuity to find less expensive ways to do the things that you always do, and to then reroute that money into your savings account. Now let's talk about my issue with that $1,000 emergency fund. If there's anything that 2020 has taught us, it can be that anything's possible, and anything and everything that can go wrong probably will. Many people, especially in the food services and hospitality industries, lost their jobs or had drastically reduced income. And losing a significant amount of your income is one of the main reasons for an emergency fund. While cash emergencies and unexpected expenses like car trouble, medical bills, and appliance failures in your house can definitely fall into the emergency fund category, $1,000 isn't gonna cut it. It definitely won't cut it if you just lost your job and have one of those expected emergency situations at the same time. I think you need 9 to 12 months of your needs, including groceries, in your emergency fund. If you find yourself at any point with little to no income, or joining the great resignation that seems to be going on right now, you'll be a little less stressed knowing that you have enough of a cushion. Now, where do you keep the money you're saving? No, I got you. You should try and keep the bulk of it in a high yield savings account. A high yield savings account is like a regular savings account, except the interest you earn tends to be more than the major traditional banks, which are Bank of America, JP Morgan, Chase, Wells Fargo. This means that money sitting in a high yield savings account will make slightly more than if it were sitting somewhere else in one of those banks in a regular savings account. Not to mention your interest will compound. So instead of only earning interest on the money that you deposit into the account, you'll also earn money on the interest that the bank or whatever the institution is has given you on top of that. So if you have invested $100, and let's say, this is not happening right now, but let's say the interest rate were 3%. If you maintained the $100 in the account, you would then get 3% of interest, which is $3. So then the following year, let's say you didn't deposit any more money, you still have the $103. That 3% is now going to be tacked onto the $103 balance instead of your previous $100 balance, and so on and so forth. So imagine if you are constantly depositing more and more money into these accounts. Granted, interest rates are complete and total shit right now, but when interest rates are good, you can definitely lock in. So if they ever get to be good again, I mean, who knows at this rate with inflation and the way the Fed is working, but I digress. Just knowing that your money is safe somewhere and is making you, even if it is just pennies, making you some pennies instead of the risk of losing it all in the stock market That's what an emergency fund is for. It's emergency cash for emergency situations. Instead of the 20% in the 50-30-20 rule, swap it for the 30%. So essentially, you'll be saving 30% of your income and 20% will then be your fund money. But let's not get too hasty here. That whole 30% will not just go directly to savings, especially if you've already maxed out your emergency fund. There's also retirement and investments, but we'll get to investing in the next Money Monday. I definitely suggest that you have at least a month of your necessary expenses readily available in your checking account because, you just honestly never know. And sometimes if you need to make transfers between savings and checking accounts, if they're not at the same bank in particular, it can take a few days. So just make sure you have an extra cushion and not just your fund money in your checking account. Again, I want to emphasize that all of these are just guidelines. They may not be for you depending on your situation. So like everything I say or anyone on the internet says, take it with a grain of salt. In addition to regular and high yield savings accounts, what other accounts are there? Well, I'm glad you asked. Wink. I don't think the other video came out yet, but for those of you that don't know, I cannot wink. And it's pitiful every time I try. Anyway, the other types are certificates of deposit, commonly called CDs, money market accounts, and specialty savings accounts. So let's get into the logistics of each of these. CDs are if high yield savings accounts and money jail had a baby. You get a slightly higher yield than the high yield savings, but you need to lock your money away in that institution for a predetermined contracted amount of time. And if you try and withdraw that money before the time is up, you can get hit with an early withdrawal penalty. The downside is that if interest, besides your money being in money jail, is that if interest rates increase at any point in time while your money is in the CD, you're kind of SOL because you've already locked in whatever the rate was that the CD was offering. So you will have to wait until that CD matures, and the maturation period is once the money jail is over, you're free, you're out on probation. And once you're out on probation with your money, you can then choose to lock that money into another CD, which is called rolling it over into another CD, or you can withdraw it and take it out and do whatever you please with it. So that is a CD. Think of high yield and money jail. Money market accounts are if checking and savings accounts had a baby. They also have attractive rates, and you're able to write checks or use ATMs because they'll issue you a debit card. However, you may need a higher minimum deposit or minimum daily or monthly balance than the other accounts. You might be subject to more fees, or you might need a high balance in the account to even get the best interest rate. So remember, with MMAs, checking and savings account, baby. Now, I know this was true pre-2020 disaster days, but there might be some regulations in place. Let me check it out and get back to you. Hey there, Editing Liv. Just popping in to say that this was due to Regulation D, which was set by the Federal Reserve, and they have since lifted this regulation in, I believe it was April of 2020. And the reason being that just everything going on made it necessary for people to need access to their funds. However, it's not mandatory for banks to lift the regulation for consumers. So just be aware of what your bank's policies are or your potential bank's policies are. Now, the money market accounts, and for ease, I'm just going to say MMAs. The MMAs will be attractive to you because they have that savings and checking account quality to them. So you're able to put money into it and get pretty good rates as if it were a savings account, but also have access quickly to your money and the ability to write checks and things you normally wouldn't be able to do with a traditional savings account. But we don't want to be withdrawing from our savings all the time, would we? Because then would it really be an emergency fund if you have an emergency 5 or 6 times a month? How many emergencies can we realistically? I'm just being completely realistic with you. If it is true that you have that many emergencies, this doesn't apply to you. But if you're just dipping in for some fun money because you ran out in your budget, what you doing? What are we doing here? You need to click off of this video. You're not ready yet. You're not ready yet. Finally, there are specialty savings accounts. I'll say SSAs for short. And they're accounts for specific reasons with regulations in line with those particular reasons. For instance, the 529 college savings accounts, IRA accounts, health savings accounts, and the list goes on and on. For sake of simplicity, these aren't the accounts I'm recommending for the purposes of this video, which is more so general savings and emergency savings. So, quick recaps. 1. Financial advice online are usually generalized guidelines unless you're getting individualized advice. Personal finance isn't a one-size-fits-all, and that is because everyone's personal finances aren't the same. 2, in order to save more, you'll have to cut your spending. It doesn't have to be drastic, and it doesn't have to make you miserable. Just start by thinking of 1 or 2 things you can go without, and give it a solid month. Just give it the good old college try. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, it might be time to go back to the drawing board and figure out what you can feasibly give up or cut back on. 3rd, give a high yield savings account a try for your emergency fund so that it can make your money. Even if it is, again, pennies. 4th is to save 9 to 12 months of your salary. This won't happen overnight, but you have to trust the process. You'll feel so much better when you know that you have that on reserve, especially if you're thinking of walking away from your job. And the last is the 5th. There are quite a few different types of savings accounts. So if the high yield savings account doesn't work for you after a couple of months maybe, try something else. Again, it's not one size fits all, and that's what I can't stand about YouTube or sometimes Instagram, or people just feeling like they need to compare all the time. There's nothing to compare. You don't know the ins and outs of someone else's finances or financial situation, which includes whether or not they were born into certain circumstances that allow them to take different risks or make different money moves. It's all a game of you versus you. So with that, just remember, start simple and then start dipping your toes into other things. Just find what works for you. And remember, this is just savings 101. If you are more advanced than this, don't even listen to what I said. Do what works for you, what's been working for you. But if not, just give some of the stuff I mentioned a try. And I'm wishing you all the best. Now go forth and conquer those savings, or whatever. Don't forget to enjoy watching your cash reserve increase and not just having it be a misery exercise. And until the next one, make sure that you subscribe if you're enjoying Money Mondays, or if you're enjoying any of the other content, if you've been watching multiple videos. So make sure you like this video if you've liked it, subscribe down below, and I'm out until the next one. Peace.